Velveteen Dream. Hit it.
Welcome back to the Why So Serious podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, and Devin is back. No Mike. He don't watch wrestling, so I think he's out in No Man's Skyland, so he ain't here today. But we're going to do a regular show later this week. By the way, No Man's Sky had a big-ass update recently, and now it's out on VR, and it's like the game everybody wanted. So if y'all were thinking about that years ago, probably should go check it out. But today we are here we do big wrestling reviews 3 to 4 times a year. We do WrestleMania. We do Royal Rumble. We do SummerSlam. Last year, we had Rich and Cam for WrestleMania and SummerSlam, and they are back. So thank you. What's going on, Rich and Cam?
That's being courteous, waiting on the other one. Not too much, man. Yeah, things are going well.
Good. And then we also have new guests, some new blood to the show. I was introduced to these two ladies through Charmaine, a friend of the show, has been on many, many times. But we have Shelia and Sharon from the Ladies Talk Wrestling podcast. How are you ladies doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good. Glad to hear you. Glad to be here.
Come through, Wakanda Queens. Yes.
Wakanda Queens. Oh, my God. All right. So what we're going to do today is just talk about SummerSlam weekend, give our thoughts on NXT, give our thoughts on SummerSlam itself. But before we do that, I wanted to go to Rich, who's probably one of the people who knows most about wrestling outside of WWE that I follow on the Twitter stream and on the internet, and just get his thoughts on the G1 Climax that just happened. I know I saw the Moxley-EC match, and that was literally probably one of my favorite matches I've seen in a long time. That was really good. What were some of your favorite matches in the tournament, Rich, that people should probably check out?
Yeah, sure. So before I start with the matches, I should probably warn people, if you haven't seen the G1 Climax before, it's run by New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's not a strip club in Southwest Atlanta.
No, it's not.
Because people are going to be like, wait, what you talking about? And it's round robin. So everybody in each block wrestles everyone else once. So for me, I'm going to try to be as quick as I can. Because the story going in this year was Kota Ibushi, who'd been in a tag team with Kenny Omega, finally was on his own because Kenny's in AEW. He had this awesome series of matches where in Japan, like, he wrestled Hiroshi Tanahashi, and that was one of the best matches of the show, of the tournament. And it was because Ibushi reveres Tanahashi like a god, like to the point where he created a finishing hold specifically to beat the two gods of wrestling for him and Shinsuke Nakamura, who is in WWE. And for the folks who see Shinsuke doing what he does in WWE right now, they're like, wait, what? But if you Google some of his New Japan stuff, you can see why he was seen as like the baddest dude to ever exist. One of the other matches I would recommend, anything Moxley's great. Moxley Ishii, Moxley Goto, Moxley with the man who I will highlight and scream about because I didn't get a chance to do this earlier for the torch, Shingo Takagi. Shingo Takagi looks like if I was Japanese and wore a singlet and just decided to drop people on their head for 20 minutes. Like, Shingo is the closest I've seen in my life to like that closing door. Like if I had taken that left instead of the right, because he started as a junior heavyweight, but he's a 240-pound junior heavyweight. Wow. So the scale lying every time he get on it. And to the point where Moxley, after his match, is like, there's no chance on God's earth this man is a junior heavyweight. And his match against, I want to say 2 nights ago, Hiroki Goto, if you saw the finish of Raw, the finish where Cedric Alexander ducked the clothesline and then ate the Claymore That was the same finish that Shingo did with Goto.
Oh.
Only he gave him a clothesline, and the man did the same exact flip. But the guy he clotheslined, I'm 5'9", Shingo's 5'9". The duty clothesline was probably about a smooth 5'11", 6 foot, and he was probably 250 and flipped like he was a cruiserweight. So
to piggyback on what you're saying, I think the best the aesthetic difference in those two, because again I watch bits and pieces because Rich always makes me look bad. I think it was more impressive because the guy throwing the clothesline stopped. So it wasn't like he ran through him. His momentum stops, and then the guy flips off that after they kind of run into each other.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he calls that the pumping bomber because all he does is lift. So, and then in Japan, of course, if you haven't watched Japanese wrestling, the names they come up with for moves are so amazing. Zack Sabre Jr., I'm going to close with him. He beat several guys with a move which looks like, basically it's like a gogoplata or omoplata if you've seen a lot of UFC. But he calls it, and I'm going to bring it up. I apologize in advance, and I'll make sure to retweet it right now. So if anyone's following me on Twitter at Rich_Fan, you can see it. Hurrah, another year. Surely this one will be better than the last. The inexorable march of progress will lead us all to happiness.
Hold on. What now?
So he does an octopus hold. Yeah, he does an octopus hold where he grabs both of your arms and then steps on the head with the free leg. And that's the name of the finisher. Because Zack Sabre Jr. is 7 pounds and 6'8", he can wrap his body around you like Dalzim. So when he does this, and like I said, I'll also send this to Brandon directly. Make sure y'all got it. But
I'm gonna tweet that out. Zack Sabre Jr. makes Adam Cole look like a bodybuilder. Like he should be in
really.
Like he should be out on Venice Beach, like flexing. You never seen him, Devin?
No.
Oh yeah, you gotta see.
I'm about to look him up right now.
So, Rich, how did you think? We like a few weeks ago. I think the last time you were on was around the time when that whole Ospreay and Seth Rollins thing was happening. How did Will Ospreay perform, in your opinion, in the G1? I saw the match with him and Lance Archer, and I thought that was the best Lance Archer match I've ever seen. And how did he do after that?
Well, yeah, that and Archer was good for the rest of the tournament too. He didn't win as many matches as I thought, but Homeboy was wilding out there. And in case of Ospreay, I think he did well. He messed up his leg late in the tournament, so he legit messed it up, and his neck as always again. Because the man, he's like 26, 27, but he's had 3 broken necks.
Damn.
So he because he used to do gymnastics when he was a teenager. And then he got into wrestling, and then he kept getting hurt. And this year was the first year he actually lifted weights. So it's all like in England. I don't know how you get away with that, but that's life, I guess.
This Zack Sabre dude is like 6 feet tall, though.
Yeah, he's like 6'4". He's a tall dude. And
I mean, on the Wikipedia it says that man is 6 feet tall. So I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I don't know. But I thought he's a taller dude.
6'4" to Rich.
See.
I'm sorry.
Wait,
you wanted that, Rich. You wanted that.
I ordered it. It was coming to me. It's all right.
I'm sorry.
A small dude's got to live. That's why when I look at Shingo, I'm like, see? That's
so, Sheila, I know you're a big New Japan fan. Are you going to go back and watch?
Actually, that's Sharon.
Sharon.
Actually, I am. Yes.
Okay, I got you mixed up. I'm sorry. Sharon, I know you're a big New Japan fan. Are you going to go back and watch some of these?
Well, I canceled my subscription, so I have to get the subscription back because I heard
New Japan.
The G1 was really good.
Aren't they going to, Rich, are they going to be on Access? Are they going to show the G1 matches on Access?
Yeah, for the G1, if you have access, because some people don't. Like I don't with my Comcast, we don't get it, so I'd be out of luck. I mean, I could use the dark arts, and I can find it if I need to find it. I mean, that's been the game ain't changed since 1999. Like if you need to find something, you can find it.
Find it. That's true. That's true. They'll put clips on YouTube, so it's not the worst.
Or Daily Motion. I will say that if you search Daily Motion.
Daily Motion be having everything, real talk.
Everything.
That's true. So I know this is a little bit of spoilers, so spoiler warning if you don't want to know who won. But
I know who won. So I'm really happy for this person.
Okay, yeah. So, Rich, talk about Kota Ibushi winning the G1.
Yeah, it was great. He went by himself. The image, because one of the key stories late in the tournament was Kenta, who used to be Hideo Itami in NXT, left NXT, went back to Japan, got into the tournament, did all right. He was undefeated the first 6 weeks, then kind of fell off a cliff as his body, like the storyline was his body fell apart again, and like the rigors of the American style ruined him for Japan. So he, in an effort to kind of like keep up with the Joneses, joined Bullet Club. And so
I saw that
betraying like the guy who got him in. It was awesome, man. It was like Bruce Mitchell, who's like our resident like unk at the Torch, saw it and was like one of the best angles he's seen in like decades, in terms of the dude who had his neck broken and they said would never legit wrestle again, coming out of the crowd to punch out the guy who betrayed. Like, I got you this job, man. Why are you stealing on the job? Like, that's basically what it was. And then he's like elbowing all the Bullet Club members with one elbow. Each one of them are flying like 10 feet. Like to Cam's point before we started recording and your point about being superheroes. Like, he's doing the superhero thing. He's knocking them off one by one. They're flying left and right. Then all of a sudden the bad guy hits him in the back of the head with a kendo stick and then he gets laid out. You fast forward to the main event, you got 11 members of Bullet Club on the apron and one Kota Ibushi. He didn't even have like backup. Like people were saying, bring Kenny Omega. It's like, nah, I got this myself. I don't need nobody but me. And sure enough, he did it. He gave that man a Kamigoye, which for those of you who don't know, like I said, Kamigoye is in Japanese means to surpass God. So he takes both of your wrists and he throws his knee into your jaw. I don't know what God needs that, but apparently that's the weak spot for his God. I think that's a weak spot for most vertebrates, but that's me. And so he gave Jay White 3 of those, including one with his knee pad down and just a quick ripcord to like the side of the jaw to get him down, to get at him again. And that
brutal.
man.
Yo,
Yeah, that
who
man went
ever
down.
thought a ripcord would be that powerful? Like back in like 90s wrestling or like early 2000s. Whoever thought this ripcord would be a thing? Like, but this ripcord is such a vicious move that I love.
Yeah. And it's one of those wild things to me where our buddy Shahid, Cam and I's buddy Shahid, was talking about like wrestling, like you got to keep up and you got to do these crazy moves. And I was like, one of the best wrestlers in the world is just like, I'm going to spin you around and I'm going to hit you with my arm. And then I'm going to stretch my arms. Like if you told me the Okada would take the beginning of the people's elbow and then add in a clothesline and people are going to lose, or a drop kick, he just in the middle of the room.
Those drop
it's like
kicks
one of
are
those.
the best.
It's like when I was watching CB4, they were talking about Wacky D, and they're getting off. Everybody's doing the Wacky D dance. Like, there's wrestlers who have been doing like 450s, 560s, whatever, and like this mofo doing a drop kick and a clothesline, and people throwing underwear at him.
Yes. So I love Kota Ibushi. I'm just so scared he's going to break his neck. Like I get so, especially when him and Naito wrestle. I like the last one. I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm not watching the next time they wrestle because it just scared the hell out of me. So, do you think it's going to be just the last thing before we move on to SummerSlam weekend? Do you see Ibushi and Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, or do you think something's going to happen in between and it'll be somebody else?
Oh no, I think it'll be him, and I think he'll win because he signed a contract long term with New Japan. He's like a guy that can trust. I had mentioned that if you see on Twitter, someone came up with the idea that he is, and I love New Japan because things happen and it's history and they can play off it. Kota Ibushi is the first person to ever win all of their singles tournaments. So he was the first person to win the New Japan Cup, Best of the Super Juniors, and the G1. And that's over a 6, 7, 8 year period. It wasn't something they planned, but he was always a guy that had their eye on them. They trust even when he was a freelancer. And so now he's their guy. You have this guy who's been, you look at him, it's like, yeah, he did do that. It's like, Cam was talking, on the Torch earlier this week with Quaid about, like Kawhi Leonard and some of the folks at Texas. Like you look, it's like, yeah, he did win Rookie of the Year. Yeah, he did. He did. Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess he has been good. And then the board man gets paid. It's one of those things where it just adds up and the excellence has been there. You just maybe haven't always seen it. And I think he's been more serious without Kenny Omega and with him focusing solely on New Japan. Like, if you have a guy like Kota Ibushi, and for those of you, again, if you haven't seen it, Google Kota Ibushi and realize that when you look at him, that is a 37-year-old man. Yeah. He looks like a 27 or 25-year-old Japanese.
He's 37 and ripped.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
when you
37.
look at this man, it's like, wait, excuse me, he is a male model and he just got out of like college.
Yes.
He
Like,
looks like he
nope.
needs to be part of BTS and shit.
Yes.
Well, he looks like an anime prince.
Yes.
Oh, true.
Yeah, he does.
Yes, he just needs the little light emoji that comes behind him and people start crying. Like, he's so
Yeah.
beautiful, I want to die. Like, that's him. That's Kota Ibushi. And then he's had 2 neck injuries. And it's hilarious to me to look at this because those guys were all in the Cruiserweight Classic and didn't sign with the WWE because
Right.
they were like, I don't know if I can trust you to do for me what these guys will do for me.
Mhm. Yeah, him, Zach, a couple other were in there, right? That's not
Yeah,
there yet.
him, Zach, who else wrestled that was in there together? Oh, my brain, forgive me, my head slipped. But there's a couple of guys who were in that tournament that were just
Rich,
kinda
what
like-
is Jay White's finishing submission move? Because what the fuck are you trying to do to somebody? Like, they can't fake that. You can't fake that shit.
Oh, the Switchblade, yeah.
Switchblade.
He gives him the Blade Runner. So that's basically like oh god, what do you call that? Complete
ACL
shot.
surgery? Yeah.
And it's great because when people sell it, their heads just snap. Like, it's over. And yeah, so he's wild. Jay White is most people when you meet New Zealanders, like when you go out and travel, they sound like they're Australian and get pissed off, but they're so polite they'll never tell you they're pissed off. Jay White is like that guy who, if you ever seen Flight of the Conchords or any of those comedies on, imagine those guys, like you hear that voice, it's like, hello, I'm from New Zealand. And he then will kick you in the throat.
Yeah, I love his character.
His life in Japan. Like, he's a dude who moved from New Zealand to Japan to be one of their like New Japan guys, stayed, and no matter what is like, I belong to you guys. Like, I'm not here to get famous in another country. I came here for this.
Right.
And so they trust him implicitly, and then Gato, the booker, like made himself his manager like he did with Okada when he gave him the rub, and he's just, some people hate him, but
He's
the
26 years old. That's crazy as well.
Well, same thing with Okada. Okada got that same push at 26. Yep. He came in his first match, he won the title.
Wow.
Yeah,
he came back from TNA.
Is the only place that don't push the young guys anymore. They used to. Like, The Rock came up at, 24? 23? Something like that? Like, when he first got up.
He was champion by 27. Yeah,
he was champion by 26, 27. But now, they stay in NXT for, like Velveteen Dream is what, like, 24? Or something
23.
Like that? 23? Yeah, like, he's 23. So they're probably like, oh, we can keep him down there for a while. He's still 23. And I'm like, no, we need a 23-year-old on the main roster. Like, that's a cool thing. So, actually,
anything this week taught me, like, is that, like, the innovation in these lower level, like, not lower, but, like, less mainstream than WWE, is like the athleticism is growing, and these athletes need to be seen on the WWE so we can evolve wrestling to a level where it needs to be at.
Well, here's the thing. WWE has the talent to. I mean, they don't have Okada. Like, to me, Okada's the best wrestler I've ever seen. But they have talent that can have those types of matches or similar type of matches. They just choose not to. That's just not their style. Yeah. Like, AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, all those dudes can have those matches.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
What did you say,
AJ Styles is fucking phenomenal, yeah.
Oh, no. I didn't.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, that was me. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was Rich. Okay, cool.
I was saying, like, you got a 70-year-old who books things one way, and as I heard Brian Alvarez mention it, which I thought was hilarious when you think about it. A 70-year-old wants to see wrestling the way he remembers how it
exactly.
Works. Right. You flip it, you got a 50-year-old. You don't remember Triple H's. You got a 50-year-old that's running NXT that is with the young kids and gets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So
look what I mean, we're going to talk about it, but look at the stuff we saw on Takeover versus what we saw. As much as we like, I like SummerSlam, but as much as what I liked on SummerSlam, you look at Takeover and I'm like, yeah, you put Matt Riddle in the ring with Kushida. You put Matt Riddle, I would say put Matt Riddle in the ring with anyone in New Japan. He's got next. You put Kushida in there. You put Keith Lee in there. You put Keith Lee in the ring with freaking, I didn't even talk about him, who was in the G1, Mr. Athletic Jeff Cobb. Now, I'm not going to ask Jeff about his position on, like, the earth being flat. I will leave that to other people. But if I want to see a wrestling match between those two behemoths and change the curvature of the earth by watching them like slam each other on a wrestling mat, yeah,
Don't even
I
get
need
me
to see.
started on Keith Lee. Oh my gosh. Also, shout out to Big E. I don't know if anybody saw the Twitter clip today, but yeah, we love Big E.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I didn't get this chance to see it yet.
Oh, did you hear what happened?
No.
Oh, so
happened?
basically, like, he was getting interviewed by somebody, and the dude was like, "Yeah, so you know, all these sports teams, they ain't going to the White House. What do you think about like not having respect for the White House office? I mean, not having respect for the president, but having respect for the office. And would you go if you got invited?" And Big E was basically like, "Yeah, I'm good on that." He was like, "The New Day's good on that. We not really part of that." And then the guy was like, "But don't you think you should like respect the office?" And then he was like, "Well, if there's a guy in the office that's worthy of my respect, then I'll respect them." And just kind of left it at that. It was like really good. So I was really proud of. Like I was like, "Yeah, Big E's about that life."
Yeah.
We should have known that though. How they were side eyeing Hogan.
Yeah. I think don't ask someone about their opinion if you really don't want to hear it.
Oh yeah. Then Twitter wrestling people went on a whole thing today.
The white ones.
Yeah, the white ones. Yes, you know, whole thing, just showing their whole ass. But all right, that's a good way to transition into NXT Takeover. So let's start with Sharon and Shelia. What were your overall thoughts of the show?
I didn't watch it, so unfortunately.
Yeah, we
I mean, I heard
didn't
good
actually
things.
get a chance to watch it.
Oh, you didn't watch
So-
NXT Takeover yet? Okay.
No, yeah, we didn't get a chance to watch that. We were trying to just focus on SummerSlam.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Cam, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, good show overall. You know, my biggest takeaways, I think that one narrative I'm going to push until it's not there anymore is that takeover for takeover, match for match, show for show, Kyle O'Reilly is probably the most important performer that they have on the roster. Like it's his job to get the show going. Most takeovers, whether it's as tag team champion, whether it's tag team title challenger, and he delivers just every time. I can't say enough good things about him. Street Profits, you know, I think Angelo Dawkins is holding his own on a team where there's a bona fide, you know, once in a lifetime maybe star in Montez Ford. I think that NXT's done a very good job of making them the people's champions, of making them the guys who drive around Full Sail celebrating, of having them go through the crowd. I think that as a homegrown team, they're firing on all cylinders. It's great seeing them, you know, get the rub as personalities on Raw, but they're go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, let's talk about that. So last time they won the belts in the ladder match, and now they had their first main, like, focus tag match to open the show against the Undisputed Era. And by the way, when you brought up Kyle O'Reilly, I was like, the one thing I miss is him playing the championship, like the belt guitar coming out. That's like the best thing of all
And he
time.
air guitared it.
Yeah, he air guitared it.
He did air guitar.
Him with the belt is great. It really
It's
is.
the best thing ever. So, yeah, Cam is always talking about how different of an athlete Montez Ford is. Listen.
Yo,
this
that
dude,
shit is a first of I didn't know. I didn't even know they existed, Brandon. So like seeing this shit for the first time was like, who the fuck is him and why didn't I know about him? Like I was like, no. Oh.
Yeah,
and I was just thinking, like, if NXT keep bringing athletes like this, wrestling's going to change and there's not going to be that many white people in it. That's what I thought. But
this
that was
show,
just me.
our podcast is always full of athletes. Like Devin was a close to Olympic level sprinter. Like I was a college football player. Rich is a football player. Cam is a strong man. And
I play football, damn it.
he's a strong man.
From Texas, guys. Jeez.
But listen, I don't think I've ever seen anyone like it looks like he's going to jump out the ring. Like I'm so afraid he's just going to, like, last time in the ladder match, he did a plancha out the ring. And he missed everyone. Like, he literally jumped out the ring and over everyone waiting to catch him and just landed on the ground. And I'm like, dude, this is insane. And he had a frog splash on Saturday.
That frog splash, he went to heaven and came back down on that man.
There's an NXT, like I want to say, Rich did one of the NXT takeovers where they were on the pre-show of it, which ends up being a regular NXT show. They had a match, and it's the highest planche I've ever seen. Ever. He didn't come anywhere near the rope. It was amazing. And
right, that's why when he does it, like he never touches. He's nowhere near the rope.
I thought there was a spring in the ring. Like seriously, the way he just jumped up. And the most impressive thing about that frog splash, if you look at it, his feet are almost together. Yes. So it's literally like a no momentum, just straight up jump, and it's fantastic. He is really special. And then I was telling Wade last night, there's a 7-second window where he goes from belly to back suplex to front handspring to moonsault.
Yes,
like
that was a great sequence. Yeah.
He's amazing. He is.
Yeah, I always said recently I was always called Montez Ford the Aaron Ross of WWE because
Aaron Ross bought sneakers from me one time, but long time ago.
What? Oh, that's right. You did go to Texas. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, because his wife is like so crazy athletic, just like Aaron Ross's wife is so crazy athletic. But like, I can't imagine like them like how like they had the Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union workout commercials. Can you imagine like Bianca Belair and Montez Ford just like working out together? Like that's got to be incredible.
Yeah, that's a network special that we need. Seriously.
No, it's not, because then everybody's gonna commit to it because they're like, kill myself.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah,
exactly. But no, but yeah, I think that if you go to like minute 12 in that match, where O'Reilly and Fish just turn it on, like they go to that next gear, and then I thought Angelo Dawkins is this one thing where he gets tagged in and then he picks Kyle O'Reilly up and throws him into the corner from the middle.
Yo, that was the best part of the fucking match. Like he started spearing people. God damn it!
He's gotten so much better.
Yeah, he really has. He's been in developmental, like when it was FCW still, I want to say. But yeah, he really has like found his niche as a part of that team. And really, as much as I love Montez's personality, I think where his personality can be kind of larger than life, when they're together, I love Angelo kind of being the level one. Like they really do play off each other well. It works out
very well. Yeah.
Angelo on those Raw skits is the best part. He's always the best part, except when the funniest thing I've seen from those skits was Montez Ford doing the elbow drop on nothing with Ric Flair.
Yes.
The other night, I rewinded that at least 50 times to watch that. It was the funniest thing I've seen. So, yeah, the Street Profits retained against the Undisputed Era. Rich, what'd you think about Io and Candice LeRae? Because you talked about Candice LeRae on this show a lot when she was wrestling outside of WWE. This was probably her biggest showcase since she's joined the company. What'd you think of how she did?
I usually use Cam as like my litmus test. I tried with Travis, I failed miserably. But at least Cam will like watch and like observe and then like give comments. So Cam gave it the highest praise when he was like, "This is the most offense he's seen in a women's match."
Yes.
And Candice is no longer, after this match, in my opinion, just Johnny Gargano's wife or the happy woman who looks like, Candice Cameron's twin sister, ergo the name. She's just, that match was awesome. And Io Shirai is one of the best. Like when we were talking about the men, when you have the list of the best women wrestlers in the world, she's probably in the top 10 right now. And you have Asuka, you have Kairi Sane, you have so many other women that they have on the roster, even in the UK, that they're not even using right now, that never get to show it because they're usually matched with people who are either too old and too hurt to show it or too young and too ineffective to hang with them. And she had a perfect dance partner with Io, and they showed their butts. They showed out. It was wild. I could not believe that they were, the sequence where she did a German suplex on the Candice and then a deadlift slow motion one. I was like, what are y'all are crazy. And Io the whole time MFing her, it was a lot. I love that match.
I love that match.
We're not going to talk about that Spanish flash? You're not going to talk about that Spanish fly off the top rope?
I was gonna leave the Spanish fly. I was going to leave the finish too, because I haven't seen someone get big girled like that in my life.
Yeah, and you can't live. That's a real move. That, like, I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, you can't tap out of that. You got to pass out. You got to pass out.
That was great. I've never seen that as a finish. And like Rich said, I think it's like offensively, I've never seen that many moves in a women's match, that many high impact moves anyway. The Spanish Fly in 2019 is kind of like, I don't know, it's like a Hurricane Rana was in 1996. When you see it, it's like, oh my God, how are people doing this and not dying? But yeah, great match. And again, that finish where she's about to tap and it's like, no. You're going to pass out from this.
Yes.
Io Shirai is, like, ever since that cage match where she's giving her, like, suplexes onto a folded out chair, which they don't even have men do, has been on a roll. And I don't know if this means, like, I hope it means good things for Shayna. But we'll get into that. But yeah, I thought a really, really good match from both parties. And Io Shirai's on fire right now.
Yeah, that match was just that was one of the best women matches in a long time because
I've never seen a women match.
And it stood out on this card. We'll get to it a little bit later because I wasn't as impressed in the Shayna match for the first time ever, as much as previously. But Io is she's just something different. And Candice has such babyface fire. It's just like she's like one of the best baby faces on the roster. She fights and she fights and she fights. And you want to see her win, and then at the end, it was just like, no, this badass woman was just like, I'm sorry, it's a wrap for you.
Man, but like, I mean, honestly, like, if you were looking at the match, it's like there's no way she could win with the moves they were putting out there. Like her suplex, her German suplex didn't win the match. Like, you're like, oh, that's crazy. Like off the top, or like whatever she did off the second middle rope shit. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Like, if she couldn't win with that, like, yo, you're not going to win this match.
So then we had an angle with Matt Riddle and Killian Dane. And I'm like, okay.
I'm here for that.
I want to see that. I want to see a big-ass motherfucker fight a UFC fighter. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Killian Dane moves great.
What was the best part of y'all? Was it when you started kicking motherfuckers in the face, like they was trying to break it up?
Yeah, I mean, when Killian Dane just came across the stage with the crossbody, I think
that was good.
When you have that unique build to where, like, I'm sure Killian Dane can jump high. The fact that he doesn't when he does that, and he's basically giving you a crossbody like dead into your belly button. Like, I think that's really cool. It's a good look. And yeah, somebody who wants to fight Matt Riddle, not shut Matt Riddle up, not prove that they're better than Matt Riddle, which him and Gulak do that great, but like somebody that just wants to fight Matt Riddle. And Matt Riddle has such a fire to him. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's a way to get one of those top contender acts on the show without extending the 5-match rule that you kind of set for yourself. Yeah, I really liked it.
All right, cool. So then we had, to me, the biggest, the guy has the most potential in the company, Velveteen Dream versus Pete Dunne versus Roddy Strong, which I thought this match was fantastic.
My man Strong put on a show for me. Like, he never really did it. He never did it for me. But like for this match, he showed me like I need to pay more attention to him.
Yeah, him being a heel, I think has done wonders for him. I always say it. You have Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley, Eddie Edwards, and or Davey Richards, and who's the other guy? It doesn't matter. But you know, those white guys who are all 5'7", 172 pounds.
That's my thing. So nobody can leave fucking NXT because they're just not what Vince wants on the main roster.
And really quickly, like, not to jump around too much, when I watched that contract signing, that's the first time I realized how small Fish and O'Reilly were.
Oh yeah.
And you remember, like, Montez is 6'4" and Dawkins is like 6'2". It's like, oh, good. But no, about Roderick Strong. They had three guys in that match. You know, Pete Dunne is
fantastic in his own way.
British strong style, hard submission, always thinking of the next move, the way to hurt you. Roderick Strong, Messiah, the backbreaker, can do every move, should not be that strong at that size, great striking with the knees. And then Velveteen, who is like this hybrid between old WWE main event and WCW cruiserweight. Like,
okay,
that's like, cause he can, like, you look at that match with him and Ricochet at TakeOver, he can do everything well, most things because it's Ricochet, but he can do all the cool spots that you want him to do. But because he's a bit taller, because he's a bit lankier, because he's a bit more precise, like if Miz was good at wrestling, he'd be Velveteen Dream.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Perfect.
That's a good one.
Yeah, you have those three conflicting styles that should not work together, but they do. And they were just beating each other up and selling each other's moves. And, oh, it's so fun to watch. Like, I'm a huge fan of
Velveteen still sells too hard sometimes.
See, you think so? See, that's what I like. Because that was one of my favorite things about Rock. How Rock,
So
like, he
extra.
got shot every time he got hit. But,
Because he sells to the point where, like, he missed the actual, bump. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Oh, when he
So,
did that
like, I was
flip
like,
off the top?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
That was hilarious. But here's the thing: like Velveteen is the quote unquote the worst worker in that match between Pete Dunne and Roddy. They're both
I
veterans
agree.
and been there longer. But he's so athletic, and his personality is so big that all you do is look at him. Like the whole entire match, I'm like, okay, look at Roddy doing all these backbreakers. Pete Dunne's doing the joint manipulation. But look at this dude. Like, I just kept watching him and just kept watching him and kept watching him. And I can't help but just think, like, a lot of people are so worried about NXT guys going to the main roster. And it's true because a lot of them have been great, i.e. look at Asuka and then look at her in the main roster. And I can just keep going down the list. But I really think Dream is the one guy who Vince will get. Like, I feel like he could mess it up because he could go too far with some race things. I'm
about to say race things, yeah.
But I think he's the one guy who's just like, he's old school, big personality wrestler who he's tall enough that Vince will just say, yeah, I get this. And so I really want to see him be a big star. What do you think, Rich?
I think Velveteen, more than the race stuff, because I think Vince, if he sees somebody that can, regardless of race, make him money, he'll use him.
Right.
I think the ambiguity of Velveteen, where he could play up those Prince nuances where he's hypersexual, but not necessarily asex, is where he wins. Like that friggin', I believe he's like, I joked on Twitter, I need the third season of Pose to be him and PCO talking one night in Milan about how it would be great if they did a Mounties entrance during a takeover. Like, because PCO would be down for something wild like that. Like, it'd be like one of those Chappelle Show stories. Like, you're at like this crazy club somewhere and all these people doing all this stuff. And then you see PCO just sitting there in his wrestling gear, just like chill. And everybody goes, hey, Pierre Call, what's up, bro? And then Velveteen walking and he's like the Charlie Murphy of the story. And he's like, well, this is how this happened. And you just believe it.
Yeah,
I think with Vince, he has to get that. Right. Like I saw a clip of him back when he was when he was the pirate in WWE and just did a bump like a senton off the top to the floor at Bret Hart. Bret walked away and Homeboy just took it. And that was in 1996. Yeah. And I'm like, this mofo's still doing that 23 years later?
He's a crazy person.
Like when people are like, you got to watch your bump card, like you see PCO and it's like, do you?
So, Sharon and Sheila, I know you didn't watch NXT this week, but what are your thoughts on the Velveteen Dream?
I find Velveteen Dream to be interesting because again, he's not. How can I say? He's not like a character who can't like qualify in some kind of way. He's very extravagant out there. Mm-hmm. So again, I could see maybe Vince McMahon. Maybe I feel like I could see this Vince McMahon not being able to know what to do with him.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say that as well. So I don't know. There's rumors that NXT is going to go on FS1 on Wednesdays, opposite of AEW, starting in the fall. So I can see. I would hope if they do that they start paying these dudes like main roster dudes. And here's the thing: if they start paying them like main roster dudes, then okay, you don't have to go to Raw. I'm good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm good with that. Stay on NXT. Let Triple H run that show. I just want you guys to get paid like you deserve to get paid.
Well, they always considered NXT to be a third brand.
Right.
So hopefully they will get paid like a third brand.
I agree. All right, Cam. I know you're a huge fan, as am I, as is D-Palm. I heard you guys on the UD Pod talk about Shayna being one of the best wrestlers in the world. Shayna defended her title and won against Mia Yim. What did you think about this match? Because it was kind of polarizing on Twitter.
The biggest issue with Shayna Baszler is what we're talking about. Like, as much as we praise her and talk about how complete she is, what happens when you get all that praise? What happens when you're complete? And what happens when you're not on the main roster? You're in the semi-main event or main event of all these shows, and we have to find new ways to have you win. And so, they have the thing where Shayna can't use her arm for a good portion of the match. And so you kind of have to work around that. I thought the match was good. I also think that, to me, Mia Yim isn't the type of opponent that a Shayna Baszler needs. We've all played Street Fighter. Ryu's kind of like the base character, right? So he does the moves you're familiar with, the button movements you're familiar with. But when you look at these tournaments, you look at your Evos, a lot of people don't use him because he's not super dynamic in that way. So Mia Yim, who is pretty good at everything, does not present Shayna with something I think that is new, something she hasn't seen. It's not the crazy athleticism of a Bianca Belair. It's not the aerial assault of a Io Shirai. I mean, it's not even the I can hit every move at a unique size that Ember Moon was. So I think they tried to get creative with how the match went. I thought it was just fine, but yeah, I mean, Shayna's running out of things to do in NXT, and I think that's starting to show, So it was fine. They were good on both sides. I love the finish of, her not being able to use her traditional move, so going with the head scissors.
Yes.
The way she, talked building up to that match, the stuff she says in the match, the way she celebrates, even when she comes through that curtain and comes out for the first time, it's all pretty good. This was not the best way to showcase what I think is one of your top talents, though.
Yeah, that video package, Shayna Baszler was being real South Dakota in that video package. Real.
Trying to lock up people of color, man. You got to do it.
Wow.
Real South Dakota. Rich, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think Cam, I don't want to belabor the point. I think it's right. I think a lot of it is she can't do much more, and she's also not in a position yet where they got to let her kind of lead with a younger wrestler that needs her guidance. So she's missing between as long as she's in NXT, because she's never going to be in that spot. She'll be on a SmackDown where you have no offense to her, like a Dana Brooke, you kind of have to work around,
right.
Or on a Raw where you're dealing with one of the Iconics, or, as much as she can talk, I think Alexa Bliss falls under Cam's when they like you a different rule.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that I saw that this, I don't want to jump ahead, but I saw that on Monday when, there's a tag match with the Kabuki Warriors, and I've never seen I've never seen Kairi Sane look sad before. She's doing an introduction and she looks like her cat died before the match. And Asuka usually is sauciest woman to ever sauce it in WWE, and just low key sassy all the time. And she's like, I'm here.
Yeah, it would have only been worse if it was the Iconics.
Right. They are I'm tired of these same blonde women getting my job, and I got to go out and making them look like $1 million. I feel like Shayna would do that about once or twice on the main roster and be like, look, Heifer, I'm going to need you to go talk to Vince and say you don't feel good and you're going to give this to me.
Why's she got to be a heifer, though?
Because I think most people don't realize this, but because she rooms with Mia Yim, I think that South Dakota becomes South Crenshaw when she gets a little upset.
That's true.
Which is also kind of a shame that you didn't get a match that everybody could appreciate out of them, with them actually having a rapport.
Right. I wanted to see Stannis. I wanted to see the dog they share. I want to see the fact that when I tore my ACL, you would be the one that would take me everywhere. That's the thing about a social media era where our boss Wade kind of sometimes doesn't want people to be their self. But their storyline was there where I tore my ACL up You were succeeding in NXT. You were a full scumbag, but you still respected me enough to take me around to my doctor's appointments, to walk my dog, the massage, like keep me right. And then as soon as I got right, you were like, I'm going to crush you like everybody else. What's up with that?
But I hope that she being Mia Yim, I hope she finds a style. Because I think she's developing a new one. Because, Mia Yim was doing 450s back in the day. But I hope she finds a style that is not only believable, but that can translate over to the main roster one day, because I feel like they might be a couple of years late on signing her, but I think she's smart enough to get it figured out. So we'll see.
I agree. And then we had the main event. I'll just say this to start. I thought each of the three of these matches have been worse than the other ones. Not that any of them are bad, but like that first one, I thought was just one of the best matches I've ever seen in WWE.
Stellar.
It was just incredible. And then the next one, I thought it was good, but they were doing too much. Like when you start kicking out of like top rope Canadian destroyers multiple times, I'm like, yeah, y'all doing a little too much, but it was still a really good match. And then this one, I just felt like it was too much. Like
it was too cute.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. It was just too much. And then, like the first one, it's like, I'm going to get myself, like we've seen this in Iron Man matches before, but like in an Iron Man match, you get the disqualification, and then the next match starts, and then you can just like knock out 2 or 3 pins and get up a lot. In a 2 out of 3 falls match, the logic doesn't make any sense to like just give up on yourself when you don't have to. Because Johnny was winning. Like he could have like won that match, and he decided to get disqualified for what? Like, it just didn't make any sense. And then they had a not horrible, but then I didn't like all the weapons. It felt like TNA to me. Like, with the, what do they call it? Lethal Lockdown in TNA. Yeah. It felt like Lethal Lockdown, just all these random weapons on the cage and them climbing and just like, okay, we're going to climb and then we're going to fall. And then we're going to grab this and then we're going to hit you. And then they did the spot with the handcuffs where people thought it was going to be thumbtacks. And then they pull out the handcuffs and they're just like, oh, it's handcuffs. And I don't know. Cam, what'd you think about this?
You know what match nobody ever talks about? The second ladder match between Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. Nobody cares about that match. You had a good idea, and you thought running him back was going to have, equal or better results. And it didn't. Like, they had the 2 out of 3 falls match. Like, that should have been, if anything, that should have been the second match as opposed to the first, but you kind of ran the big match out there first. I think that athletically they delivered because those two always deliver, but the premise of everything was just too cute. Now, what I hope is that Johnny Gargano is gone to the main roster or he gets some time off, because I think that's run its course. As much as I like the mix of the top 5, 6 guys that they've had up there, being those two, Ciampa, Black, Dream, and Ricochet, I do think it's time to get a Keith Lee up there. A Matt Riddle, I know he's trending that way. You can put a Pete Dunne up there. You can have Roddy have a problem with Adam Cole. So those things all exist. But yeah, good match athletically. Certainly not a match where I blame the wrestlers for anything that happened, but way too overproduced in a situation that did not call for that.
I agree. Rich,
I'm really sick of those main. I'm really sick of those main events being an hour long because they're good, but again, there's so many lulls in the action, that I just can't be invested in. I want to like Johnny Gargano like everybody else likes him, but fuck that dude. He never gives me anything. Like the Chatham matches are good, but they're just fucking long as shit. I'm just
Here's the thing. I have some followers on Twitter, and they are like super main roster. We all know, like Cam and Rich know what I'm talking about. Like they're like I don't mess with AEW. I'm all it's like on Twitter. It's like you're either one way or the other. Like, it's the people who everything in WWE is the worst thing ever and everything outside WWE is the best. And then it's the people who are like, yeah, WWE is the NFL and the rest of y'all is just like arena football. I don't care. And so there's a lot of people who look, and I can't help but, there's a lot of people look at Gargano. Like, I was saying this on Twitter. I was like, Gargano, to the closest, person to me is Daniel Bryan. But when I see Daniel Bryan, I find his personality to be much, much more intriguing than Gargano.
Mhm.
I find his matches to be far more credible. And what I mean by credible, I mean is like I look at Gargano and the stuff that he does to people and they kick out. I just think like, are you not strong enough? Sometimes like if I did this to someone, they're not kicking out, especially not 15 times or whatever. And then also low key, like Daniel Bryan is thick. Like he's got thick legs.
Yo,
He's like
he's a goat.
he stands next to like the main roster dudes, and he's only 5'8" or 5'9", but he looks like he should be in the ring with them. And then like if I swear, like if I see Johnny Gargano get in the ring with Roman Reigns, I'm gonna look like what the hell am I watching? Like so I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit too hard or extreme, but I do think like people try to say this is the era where size doesn't matter, but I do think that size matters some. It still does matter.
Yeah, and let me say this too. As good as Gargano is, I think that it makes you realize how good Ciampa is and was.
Yes.
Because his and he's not the biggest guy in the world. I mean, he's, in great shape, but he's not, 6'2", 6'3". Right. But his personality, the way he carried himself, and the juxtaposition between the two of those guys who are best friends and, of course, are going to have similar interests, but the fact that he was always the devil on Johnny's shoulder that he was fighting, I think having those two, and even, when they're really good friends, I think having those two play off each other helped Johnny more than it ever helped Ciampa. And seeing Johnny kind of on his own, the motivation is I wasn't supposed to be good enough, but I'm good enough. And that's kind of the end-all, be-all of Johnny Gargano. And we've seen that with people who are better than that, like Daniel Bryan, like AJ Styles, guys who aren't the biggest in the world but have these great personalities or these mean streaks. Like I do think one thing I'll say about Johnny, his facial expressions during matches, I think, are top level of anybody. I think when you kick out, his frustration, when he's pulling back on you in a submission, the aggression, like I love all that. But yeah, him standing there, he's kind of an all shucks guy. I don't know if it's the haircut, I don't know if it's how the beard doesn't quite connect. Like there are things.
Yeah, like I was just thinking, like I watched Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles wrestle Brock Lesnar, and both of those matches to me were fantastic. And I just cannot picture like a main event of Johnny Gargano, and that's not a knock. But I'm just saying, the way some people talk about
that
it
is the Dolph Ziggler Goldberg match every time.
But that was hilarious to me.
Like, it was great. Hilarious. But I'm just saying, that's literally what Gargano against Brock.
Well, yeah, you would expect that would be the match. But yeah, I think he will. I think he can be a main eventer as a tag team. Like if him and Ciampa came up as DIY, like yes, I want them to have the belts and I want them to wrestle second from the top against the Usos or against the New Day or against Cesaro and Sheamus if they get back together or against like the OC. Like those would be fantastic matches, and I think he'd be much better to play off of Ciampa in that role as opposed to him going up there by himself, because I don't think there's any way that Vince sees him and pushes him. Like I just don't know.
205 Live is the ideal destination. I think they have a great roster over there. Exactly. I think that he's actually I'm trying to think of everybody who's there. I think he's a bigger star than all of them, just based on NXT alone. So it boosts that division. But yeah, like right now, until they get out of the Roman Reigns business and the Braun Strowman business, yeah, it might not be his best fit. I could see him getting lost in the shuffle really quick.
Adam Cole, on the other hand, like Clam always makes. What do you say? Like he looks like someone who works at the office.
Adam Cole. Let me tell you about Adam Cole. Adam Cole looks like he holds a mean clipboard on the sideline. Adam Cole. But that's the thing though. Listen to what we're saying. Johnny Gargano is physically bigger than Adam Cole in every way.
Except height.
And Adam Cole is probably taller. But if Adam Cole was Johnny Gargano's size, we still acknowledge that Adam Cole is so good at everything that you can control that we could see him in a ring with any of those guys.
Yes, exactly.
He just has a mean streak and a snarl, and he knows that he belongs. And yeah, he just
He's Shawn Michaels.
Not bigger. He is.
Because
you know what? Yeah.
Because Shawn Michaels. By the way, here's the funny thing. Like Shawn Michaels, if Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart existed today, there'd be some of the bigger people on the roster. But back in the '90s, when everyone was 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", just 300 pounds, jacked up on steroids, Shawn Michaels at like 6'1", 6'2", 220 pounds looked like a small guy. But when Shawn Michaels got in the ring with Sid or Vader or Undertaker, like he fit because he carried himself like a main eventer. His move sets was great. Like and he was great at that. Whereas like today, when everyone's not 6'7", 300 pounds, but you have people like Roman Reigns, 6'4", 260, that size is today. Adam Cole at 5'11", 190 pounds, he looks like he can, but his personality lets him fit in with that. I know me and Cam talked a lot. Rich, you have any thoughts on this main event before we move on to SummerSlam?
I put it under one of the guys we all mutually follow. I think all of us may have been on his show, or you might be at some point, Brandon. Jeff versus the World. We all joke about the too much dip on the chip. That's basically what this main event was. This was too much dip on their chip. Like they tried too hard to do too much because they got 5 stars and 5 3/4 stars. Mm-hmm. I think on their 2 matches, and they were like, "We can do better." I was like, "No, do less, say less." I mean, it was a 52-minute match. To the very first point you made when you started talking about this, and that's what I thought of the second they mentioned the time. Just make a freaking Iron Man match, and you wouldn't have the logic issue we had where he gave up the fall. Mm-hmm. And I will remark for anyone who didn't watch the G1, Buddy Murphy just remade both finishes of the last 2 main events of the G1 in his match with Roman Reigns tonight, and I had a stroke, so I had to mute myself screaming because he did. Like I was mentioning, if you want to see a Kamigoye, Buddy Murphy just did a perfect one to the dome of Roman Reigns, and Roman sold it like he died again.
I love Buddy Murphy so much. I
want Buddy Murphy to have all the good things in life. I want Alexa Bliss to leave him and for him to find a 10th ab and for him to just move on because this man is like, he needs more. Oh, no.
I love
Xavier. But, yeah, I thought the match was great, but they did too much. And then the finish of the match was that was an 18 stunt show finish that need not be there.
Right. I agree. All right, so that was NXT, a very good show. I wouldn't say it was one of the top 2 or 3 takeovers, but that's a high standard. I still think it was a very, very good show. All right, so let's move on to SummerSlam so we don't stay too long tonight. Before we
get these ladies in here,
before we start, Shelia and Sharon, we're going to go through most of the matches, but what are your overall thoughts of the SummerSlam show, both of you?
Okay, so overall, I did miss some of the matches, but overall, what we thought was like a B minus. There was stuff where I had questions about, like, what am I watching? Which, I mean, that's true. That was my thoughts, too, because it was like, a couple of the matches were like, what did I just watch? Like, what kind of foolishness and fuckery was I watching tonight? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I needed to be high or drunk or something to watch some of those, but...
Well, some of the booking was interesting, like, to say the least. Yeah, some of the booking was definitely interesting. I didn't watch all of the pre-show. Richard, Cam, did you guys watch the pre-show as a whole?
I would never watch the pre-show as a whole.
Okay, so I don't think that it was a little bit up and it was like, I'm not watching this.
No, yeah. I think I saw Edge, which was like, they let Edge do a spear. Like, that was what I thought. Like, I thought Edge couldn't do anything anymore because of his neck, so that was cool to see. I definitely was not watching. I mean, no, I'm not, like, no offense, but, like, I was not watching Alexa and Nikki versus the Iconics. Like, I'm just, Although I do get a kick out of Billie Kay. Like, she makes me laugh every time.
She's hilarious.
She is hilarious to me. But I'm good on that match. But yeah, they retained their title. So the show kicked off with the Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch defeated Natalya in a submission match to retain the title. This match went like almost 30 minutes. Sharon and Shelia, what did you think about this match?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a bad match. My only thing is, why have Natalya lose in Canada? I mean, we knew I pictured that Becky Lynch was going to win, but still. Yeah. They had Natalya lose in Canada.
Well, not only did they have her lose
Still
in
her
Canada,
bone.
but then the next night they have her come out there and talk about her dad dying a year, like to the day, only for Sasha Banks to come out and beat the shit out of her.
Yeah, that's kind of tacky. No offense.
Tacky. Yeah, WWE is kind of tacky. But I thought this was an intense match. Like, both women showed great intensity. I like the submission aspect. Like, we don't see submission matches that often anymore. So it was really good to kind of just see that and people like trying to win with a hold. And Becky retained at the end. Rich, what did you think about this match?
I thought it was, like the ladies admitted, it's paid by the numbers. You have somebody in their hometown, of course they're going to lose in WWE. I thought the finish was all right, and it was a means to an end. Like, I never got hyped about this match because the second they mentioned that it was in Toronto, I was like, okay, so it's Montreal adjacent, it's Canada, they need a Canadian, and Trish Stratus is always in another match. So, like, I want to see what they do when they go to, like, Mexico. Like, are you going to really, like, give some people – uh-oh.
That's my puppy. Don't worry about her.
Oh, your puppy. I was like, your puppy speaks Spanish? I was like, holy crap.
Oh.
I was like, this is some stuff. I don't even do drugs. Like, am I high? What happened? Yeah, but I got to be honest. The first couple of matches, I was completely nonplussed by because I felt like, what are we doing? Like, why is this match happening?
Cam?
I mean, the Zan had processed all the way through my body, so I was actually pretty up for it. The first match.
You're funny, sir. You're funny.
Yeah. Even when I'm telling jokes, I hope. But, that first match, I think that, I was a bit higher on it than everybody, I think. Of course, knowing what the outcome is going to be because it's Canada, knowing it's not beneficial to have Becky chase Natalya, but I thought the physicality was good. I think that it being a submission match, especially coming off the night before where Io Shirai and Candice LeRae get to go out there and do moves, I thought it was good. I thought that the idea that Natalya is this ring general, she got to kind of show that off. I love the sharpshooter spot from the second rope.
Yes.
I thought that was really good. But yeah, I like the intensity. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty. I mean, you knew what the finish was going to be. Sucks to tap out in your home country when it's set up like that. But yeah, I was actually a fan of the match, and I thought it gave Becky some goodwill and some good credibility coming off of all these months against Lacey Evans, who at this point is still like a lower level opponent from whatever standpoint you look.
By the way, Lacey Evans is somewhere, I don't know, cooking something. Like, I don't know. Like, somebody put on Twitter, like, a picture of her kitchen, like, at one time, and it was like, this is Lacey Evans' kitchen. And it's like the 50s kitchen, and it's, like, red with, like, the white tile, like, from Happy Days. It's, like, one of the funniest things I've seen.
Yeah, she's whipping up, tossing a segregation salad right now. It's probably going to hit.
Listen, Lacey is making the best cake for some boys who are out busy doing some sign changing and
yeah, so it's funny. She just went off of television. Like, we haven't seen Lacey Evans in weeks. Like, she's just like gone. Devin, what'd you think about next match was Goldberg defeated Dolph Ziggler in like 6 seconds. What'd you think about Goldberg?
It had WCW written all over it. WCW written all over it. And I loved every minute of it. When it came back out and picked him up and then bounced off the rope and came back and got him, I was surprised, but I loved everything. I was like,
that was funny. I would say it was funny. I did laugh at that.
And I was just like, so Goldberg's still God? Is that a thing? Like, but he lost to Brock.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of what they're saying, except that he crushed his own head in Saudi Arabia, and then crushed his head again in the ring, knocked himself out twice. The East Coast cast.
Devin, the easiest way to. Oh, I'm so sorry, Devin.
No,
the easiest way to keep track of it is treat it like Dragon Ball.
Okay. I can do that.
Goldberg is like, Frieza, and then Brock is just the god of Beirut. What is it, Beirut?
Yeah, Bears. Yeah.
He just like, I will wake up from my Canadian slumber and suplex you every couple of months, depending on if the check cleared. And Sable is his, I can't remember the other god that trained him. I'm just getting into Dragon Ball Super.
Oh, man, it's good, man. It's good. Yeah.
You're mentioning Dragon Ball brought me back to my high school years, which was 100 years ago.
Oh, okay.
That's right. I'm sorry. We have these shows, and I try to, as much as I do with our shows on the Torch, we don't have as many ladies that can do podcasts with us. I had a coworker mention this, and I apologize for derailing this.
Fine.
She went on a date, and the dude wanted to go to an anime film festival like after dinner, and she like called it at that point.
Oh,
because like, but he came in like he was sweating profusely.
Oh, never mind.
It was already like the warning signs were there, and then he was like, "How about we go to this anime film convention?"
Abort,
after.
Yes.
Although I did see a couple weeks ago on Twitter, I know Cam saw this. Was when Megan Thee Stallion was on Twitter just talking to everybody about her favorite anime. And I said, is she like the greatest thing ever?
Yeah, real shit. And then she did a paper cover for the magazine of Hero Academia. Yeah, one of the guys in Hero Academia. So
they had the hair like him in the how whenever he geeks out, he has the eye that's messed up. Yeah, she did that. It was great. It really was good.
Is she going to do a Naruto run just to like have people lose their minds in a music video?
Because if she does, I'm not going to be able to not buy her albums and everything she does.
There are women and black women who like anime. I'm not into it like the way I was when I was in high school, but I was in.
I'm just saying, Dragon Ball Super is good. It's not better than a lot of other stuff that's out, like Attack on Titan is really good. Demon Slayer is really good right now. I got you. If you want any anime recommendations, come right here.
Save Anime Corner for tomorrow. Jeez.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We go to Anime Corner all the time with you. But I was going to say the East Coast cast have had all three of you guys have had strong feelings on Undertaker wrestling ever again. Cam, Rich, what'd you think about how they used Goldberg? Was this okay with you guys? If he's going to have to be out there doing it like this, or is it still just like, yeah, we're good?
I mean, I don't want them to use Dolph Ziggler, so putting those two together is fine for me. But no, I thought that's exactly what you do with an act like Goldberg. And again, Goldberg is an old act, but Goldberg is not an act who sat around for years saying, give the young guys a chance. And then all of a sudden wants TV time. Like Goldberg is not infallible, but Goldberg is also not a clear hypocrite when it comes to stuff like this. Right. Goldberg was a big deal in another company that they mismanaged when he got to their company, and now are kind of doing right by. I think that, I think Dolph Ziggler is hyper athletic. I think Dolph Ziggler has an energy about him very few people do. I also find him to be completely corny and uninteresting and lack any type of self-awareness about his character at all. But I'll say this: if he was my guy, who I would have come out and get killed by Legacy Act, like nobody can sell that spear like he did.
Oh yes, I was about to say that. He took a hell of a bump.
That's ideal to have him in that spot. I think that for what Goldberg is, for what I think Dolph Ziggler is, it was perfect.
I saw him take that spear bump. I said, "Oh my God, that was such a great spear bump." Only to the next day to see Cedric Alexander just take the Claymore kick of death And it was just like, okay, so you saw Dolph and you wanted to one-up him. I got you. I'm pro any one-upping it on Ziggler.
So was Dolph supposed to be the new Shawn Michaels, and it just failed because he's
in his head. He thought
in his head.
Okay.
In his head, he thought
To be fair to Dolph, he kind of he got messed up from the beginning, like just by giving him that name, and then the Spirit Squad,
because it's supposed to be Val Venus, pretty much. Yeah,
and then the start pushes, and then stop, and then beat him, and then they have him come out there and talk about how great he is to lose every match. Every night he come out and say, "I'm the greatest, I'm the best," and then lose, just lose repeatedly. So people are just like kind of tired of him.
But he's kind of decorated though. Like he is decorated. He's a triple crowner. So
I mean WWE decorated. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think the biggest thing about it, like if you watch Dolph Ziggler completely on mute, then things are fine. But I'm telling you, I'm asking you guys right now. Tell me about that Dolph Ziggler promo you really, really liked.
Never. If you ended Dolph Ziggler's career the night after WrestleMania, like 6 years ago or whatever, when he won the heavyweight championship against Alberto, and if you just like took a picture of that moment when he was holding the title and everyone in the crowd was going crazy, he should have just been like, "Yep, I'm leaving on a high note," like and just walk out the door, like George Costanza. Yeah, I was just about to say that on Seinfeld. I'm out. That would have been
again
great.
like he's 37 now. You know, it's nice to say, well, what could have been, but it's still him doing the talking. It's still him doing the acting. It's still him doing the emoting. And we've seen people flourish in, like AJ Styles. We've never said maybe he isn't that good. We always saw through TNA's booking that they were mismanaging this guy. We always thought that. We don't think that about Dolph Ziggler. Like, we kind of accept that this is who he is. And, you know, he's good enough athletically to keep around. There's no reason to elevate him because he doesn't have anything worth elevating.
Yeah, Sharon and Shelia, what were your thoughts on this match?
Dolph Ziggler, stay down. Stay down, my son. Stay down. Stay down and keep your mouth shut. They would just keep collecting them checks, homie.
Yeah,
I think it was good though that he grabbed the mic and came.
Yeah, like ladies, thank you, because don't let me lie. Like, for everything I don't like about him being too stubborn to accept death, I did appreciate that. I thought he did a hell of a job that night and on Raw doing that same thing, just being so obnoxious that he refuses to accept defeat. That was actually pretty good.
And now he can go back and do bad comedy.
There you go.
So then you had the prototypical WWE segment with the white guy interacting with the black guys. With Drake Maverick, and I'm just like, the Drake Maverick act is not nearly as good when his wife's not there. That's just me. The New Day, Xavier, Big E, Kofi were getting pumped up for their match. So then I wrote on Twitter.
Xavier / Stevie Wonder.
Who?
Definitely had the Stevie Wonder braids
and
the
shades.
shades.
He did have that.
With the beads.
And he did have the beads. That's right. I forgot about that. He did have the beads.
Yeah.
I said, "Whoa, look at Xavier." I forgot to bring that up. So then I wrote on Twitter.
British Bulldog.
Yes, he went full Davey Boy Smith. So then I wrote on Twitter, Ricochet is my new favorite wrestler because he's wearing the outfit of my favorite comic book character. And then I was mad at WWE because they made Nightwing lose to what do we call AJ Styles? The Trump something? I forget what people call him, but Trump's guy. AJ Styles beat Ricochet in a very good match. Rich, what did you think about this match?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that, the Bullet Club, a Jace Club, did what they usually do. Ricochet tried to do his thing, but there's only so many times my dude can get smoked by three guys before he gets some help. I mean, that's a big issue with WWE in general. Like, none of the faces have friends. Mm-hmm. And the sooner they, I don't know. Like, if y'all ever saw Hot Tub Time Machine, like, I never want to be when I'm trying to remember the.
My man was left out there, boy.
Yeah, when he got jacked up, and he's like, "Where the F are my friends?" And he just sitting on the roofs, just crying, mad. Like that's every face in WWE. You get like, meanwhile, like everybody's just chilling, singing like Black Eyed Peas song in 1986, and you getting smoked by the club again.
Yeah, Jim Crockett.
Basically, if you're going to be a face, make sure you bring some people with you. Have your own people.
Yeah, Jim Crockett Promotions, when Dusty Rhodes would get jumped, it'd be like 75 people running out the locker room coming to save him. The whole
you got like
locker room
coming out the shower like, "What you got, baby? I need your help, baby."
Everyone comes out. Also, here's another thing. I have a question for you, Rich. As someone who watches a lot of non-WWE and saw a lot of Ricochet before coming to WWE, how do you think he's done so far? Because Ricochet in Lucha Underground and Ricochet in the Battle of L.A., Ricochet matches and some of the New Japan matches, he created this aura before coming to WWE of just like this amazing athlete. And in WWE and in NXT, you've seen him be that. But how do you think they've handled him, and how do you think his matches has been compared to him previous to WWE?
Well, I think just like with everything else, WWE has this attitude of you have to kind of get jumped into their gang before they acknowledge you can provide stuff. So we saw him with Aleister Black, which our buddy Shahid called Blackishay, and they did well for a while. But the second they separated him, Ricochet lost for like 8 weeks. And it's like, why is this dude who's like the most athletic guy on the roster losing the bums? And when you see someone lose the bums, especially with WWE's lens, I can scream till the cows come home. I've seen a match where Keith Lee and Donovan Dijak were afraid of Ricochet in a 3-way match because he was crazy enough to get them both up in the air for different moves. And you're like, okay, whatever, Rich. I see Ricochet lose to friggin' Baron Corbin 3 weeks in a row, whatever. So they're not using it. And if they're not going to use it right, like right now they're showing the King of the Ring, I can count on my hand after William Regal. No, I lied. After King Booker, how many people they've made a good job of with the King of the Ring like tournament. Because at some point they just get tired of it. And the same thing with Ricochet. No one wants to take the time to show this guy might not give you the best pro. He doesn't need to. If he's an athlete, do what he did in NXT. You had our dude, or I think everyone, I think it's fair to say that, Velveteen Dream talking that cash stuff about him. And then all Ricochet had to do was flip over the top rope and walk right up to him and say it again. He didn't even have to say it. He just flipped right in front of him. Mm-hmm. Let him be who he is, and don't expect him to have a 20-minute promo. And like I think he'd be fine.
Mm-hmm. Sharon and Sheila, what'd you think about Ricochet and AJ?
Here's the thing, like I do remember Ricochet from Lucha Underground, and like the first time I had ever seen him, I was like, who is this guy? He's really fast, he's really athletic, and of course my fear when people get on the main roster is that bookers don't really know what to do with them. It kind of seems like this is like that situation, like don't really know what to do with you.
Yeah, and they kind of like, when he first came up, he was kind of the all shucks guy. Like, I'm from Paducah, Kentucky, and I just work really hard to make my way up here, and I'm just so glad to be in the WWE and to be able to perform in front of people. And I'm just like, yeah, this is not the dude that's going to get me excited. Like, that's not going to get the main people who don't know who he is excited. His moves will still get you excited to an extent, but then he just becomes Neville. Like, to me, he's Neville. And I think he could be more. I think Neville could have been more than Neville. But to me, he's kind of just become like Adrian Neville. Cam, what were you going to say?
I'm right there with you. I think that, the biggest, not the biggest miss, but, Ricochet was supposed to be in the Seth Rollins spot during Raw Reunion, where the Clique kind of came out and showed him love and kind of passed him off as the next cool guy. So, I mean, what's a big deal for him? You can't wrestle AJ Styles every week. I thought that he and Cesaro did some really good stuff together, but they need to really define what Ricochet is and what he stands for, I think they've done pretty good, though. Like, I think him coming out to support babyface, him not forgetting AJ, I think that's all been done really well. But the biggest thing for him, and I know you said, like, he could be like a Neville, like, let's not pretend like Ricochet's not really, really good looking.
Yes.
In a way,
yes.
I think women on the show, I love it. So, in a I mean, he's good looking in a way that I think Vince McMahon thought Jason Jordan was, to appeal to that demographic. I think Jason Jordan's also a good looking guy, but there's a difference between them. So Ricochet's biggest thing is not getting hurt and not being demoted. If they keep him around like the upper mid card touching the main event, I think he'll be just fine. Like, again, he's only 31, so there's time. But yeah, they gotta he has to make sure he doesn't get hurt doing the things that he does, or he risks missing out on things like he did with Raw Reunion. So to me, for real, for him, it's about health and them keeping that potential, and him being healthy when the Montez Fords come up, him being healthy when the Velveteen Dreams come up, him being healthy if a Gargano's on the main roster. So I think he'll be okay. It's going to be a matter of attrition for him, though.
I agree. The next match was the first one I was really upset with the finish, which is Bayley defeating Ember Moon. I was really ready for Ember Moon to get that next level and to get that chance of being champion.
Yeah, oh my God, so upset. It's just, if you watch this match, you're thinking like, what the fuck is happening? Because clearly the more superior athlete that's hitting more devastating moves is not winning. What the fuck is happening? And she clearly has more pop than Bayley did. So I was just like, I was upset about this match as well.
Well, yeah. Well, WWE's kind of killed Bayley because, like, if you tell, like, I mean, I probably would have believed it then. But if you'd have told me in a time machine when Bayley wrestled Sasha Banks in Brooklyn 3 or 4 years ago that, like, this is what we're gonna, like, before Monday night, like, that's what Sasha Banks and Bayley would be in 2019. I'd have just been like, there's no way they could mess that up. Like, it's just not possible that you can mess that up with those two. But Bayley, they did a number on Bayley. Like, when she was on Raw those years, like, just being silly and stupid and getting, like, made to look dumb. And the Alexa feud just killed her dead. And so now she's champion, but she's not, like, really that over. And then, like, the last feud that she was in, she was kind of like a heel, but she was still a babyface. So it was like, do we cheer for her? So then you have Ember Moon, who was hurt for a long time. And so she's finally back. And a lot of people, like I know Cam's into, a lot of people are into Ember Moon. And then she gets this opportunity, and then she just loses. And, and the match was
if I could jump in really quick.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Ricochet a second ago. You know how I knew Ricochet was really, really, really good? Because I thought that aside from his punches, that John Morrison was really, really, really good. And then I watched that first Lucha Underground with John Morrison against Prince Puma.
Did you say John
and it's
Morrison?
like,
that's a real thing? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I saw him, well, I mean, athletically, not.
Because he has abs and he has long hair? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw the two of them, Prince Puma against John Morrison, I knew John Morrison didn't have the juice because they're supposed to be doing the same thing, except one of them is doing it 10 times better. When Ember Moon first came up to the main roster, the gap in athleticism between her and just about everybody else was super clear. Couple that with the fact that, like you said, they killed Bayley, and Bayley's strong point was never her move-for-move wrestling. It was being John Cena. It was being lovable and fighting from under and finding the will to win. This kind of almost tweener Bayley or savvy babyface Bayley against a super athletic Ember Moon is already just kind of a throwaway match. Then to have Ember lose clean in that environment, even though it was to a cool move, I don't think it helps anybody in that situation.
And the storyline was Bayley is giving Ember Moon charity, so she just picks Ember Moon to wrestle because she wanted to have a cool match. Which is basically like, I don't really think I'm going to lose, but I kind of want to give you a chance to get some shine. And then she gives her a chance to get some shine, and then she beats her at the end. I'm just like, that's just bury Ember into the ground, will you?
Mm-hmm.
Sharon, what'd you think?
Well, I feel bad for Ember Moon because I feel like she's not getting used properly. And again, she was getting buried in commentary, which is bad. Because again, you want people to be on her side when she's in this match. Instead of burying her where no one's like supporting her. So I mean, didn't do anyone any good in the match.
Yeah, and like Cam and I think Deepalm said it on the UD pod when you guys were on that like her finish is like the best finish in the company. Like her hitting that stunner off the top ropes is the best thing ever. And to have that just be like something that, you know, you put out in the opening match to get a pop, I think she's so much more than that. And I hope I don't even know if I want this feud to continue because I feel like if she goes and wins that Clash of Champions, it's just going to be like blah. Like it's not even going to really hit. I feel like it needs to go to someone else and then like an actual heel and then maybe have Ember win at Royal Rumble or something if they see that in her. But I don't know where they go from here with that. I was kind of disappointed with that. All right. Then we had Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon. And
oh boy, that match! Oh God!
All right, so yeah, go ahead. What did you guys think, Sheila and Sharon, about Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon?
Okay, first I hate Shane McMahon. I hate him.
I like where this is going.
I also hate Elias to this point too, because he was like the special defender, special referee, and I didn't understand.
Special enforcer. He was the enforcer.
This is like some bullshit. Yeah, special enforcer. I'm like, this is some bullshit. Come on. I mean, you had Kevin Owens at times arguing with Elias and wasting time. So at times, like, going to be a count out, and he was going to lose.
There was literally one time where Shane is like laying on the ground, and Kevin is like standing there, and then he walks over to the ropes, and then Elias gets up on the ropes, and he starts arguing with Elias, and then Shane rolls him up for like a false finish. And I was like, what is going on here?
Right.
Also, but here's the thing. I will say this, and I think Cam will agree with me. If this is what it took to get Shane McMahon off TV, you know, I'm all right for that. I'm okay.
We are finally at the point. It took 20 years, but people are finally understanding that Shane McMahon is a trust fund kid who's taking up space. Like, he's, you know, Shane McMahon is into his 50s now. Has skin of a broiled hot dog. Body's falling apart. Punches are bad, hairline sitting back, sweats like a broiled hot dog. Yeah, and it's never been.
He's an inspiration for us, Cam. He's an inspiration.
No, he's literally not. He's not an inspiration for us. He has nothing to do with us.
Wait, can I say something real quick?
Yes.
He's like that manager you have at work who sits in his office all day and does nothing, but he can't get fired because he's the boss kid.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
Like, his name is outside of the building, and he doesn't wear a name tag. Like, yeah, he's but like, in all seriousness, like, he's had some very cool moments. He has an athletic prowess about him, but it's worn out his welcome. And the storyline is that he's taking space from other people and taking spots from other people. Like, they're telling us this. And so I think people are finally kind of over Shane McMahon. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to SmackDown, but basically they're running back the Big Show is broke, HBK is broke angle, saying that Kevin Owens is broke, and so he has to be careful so he doesn't, you know, get fined $100,000. Like, we're back on that. But yeah, just be done with it, man. Like, KO absolutely deserves better. He's a more talented act than somebody who should have to be dragging ass with Shane McMahon. So yeah.
Right, absolutely.
I just don't like I would be okay with Shane if he was actually like the boss's son, like, as a character. Like, he talks big shit, but he don't really back it up, so he pays off people or he threatens people to carry it out for him, and then at the end he gets his. Like, I'm like, all right, I can go with that story. But what they do is they put Shane McMahon in these matches. Like, they had him fight Roman Reigns, who's supposed to be your top guy, one-on-one and beat him. And it's not like he had some interference from Drew McIntyre, but it wasn't like, you know, this guy did all the work and then Shane just came in and put his finger on him and pinned him. It's like, no, Shane McMahon is kicking out of moves and have competitive matches, and then he wins at the end. And I'm like, what is going on here? And to make it even worse, like, Shane is not even the McMahon with power. Like, behind the scenes, he doesn't have any power. He's just a McMahon. It's literally the most definition of nepotism, because he doesn't even have a title. He's just Shane McMahon, and because he's Shane McMahon, he can do whatever the hell he wants. Rich, what did you think about this match and possibly Shane being off TV?
Well, I mean, yeah, as Cam mentioned, SmackDown has proven that our national nightmare continues with Shane. But I thought that Kevin Owens, similar to, like, a lot of what we talked about during NXT, we talked about a little bit with Candice, LeRae. A lot of these wrestlers had really crazy careers before they got to the WWE. A lot of these wrestlers had to do a lot of hard stuff to get to the WWE. Shane McMahon had to just be born. And that level of privilege, for most part, he gets away with it. Like, he does his sneakerhead thing. I walk, I do the subway. I don't have a limo. My wife's the heiress to the Mazzola fortune. I don't need this. I'm doing it because I love you. That's great. But at this point, like, I was the biggest Shane head. Our boss, Wade, is like, if you ever want to see a man go from Bill Bixby to the Incredible Hulk,
it's the best.
Mention Shane is the most underrated wrestler on WWE's roster, and just walk away from Wade. Just watch Minnesota Nice fade away, and he's throwing things. And I finally, right after that second Undertaker fight, it broke. Something snapped in me, and it hasn't been the same since. And now it's just, I see this purple man, and Vince McMahon sees his son who's 50 and he's not on any other drug tests and can look like he just stepped out of a weird, oily, hot dog shaped vat. And he's going to think the guy who has a little bit of a beer gut is the guy in worse shape, but that guy can wrestle like 2 hours. It's one of those things where I'm like, there's no justice in this world, and Shane McMahon is proof of that.
Yeah. So then we have another very, I couldn't believe it, but very controversial match on the Twitter machine. Charlotte Flair versus Trish Stratus. Charlotte won via submission. I thought that I don't think I've ever been more impressed with Trish as an in-ring performer. At 43 years old, for her to come out there, and there is a clear and obvious, athletic difference between Charlotte and Trish. Even if Trish was 20 years younger, she's still not, holding the candle to Charlotte athletically. However, this 43-year-old woman is out here taking all these bumps, who doesn't do this regularly. I know Cam said this on Twitter, but her doing the figure 8 was just incredible to see someone do that. And I thought that they told a decent story, and that Trish held up her end of the bargain in this match. And it was to this point, it was my favorite match of the show up to this point.
Really quick.
I
want to echo those same thoughts. I thought that, I think I tweeted out, there's a clear athletic gap between Charlotte and Trish, and the fact that this match is so good is a credit to Trish. She's doing veteran things. She's not overextending herself. She's really carrying her side of it. Charlotte just continues to be consistently good. I think she is way less clunky than she's been in the past, which was really the only knock that anybody's ever really kind of had on her in ring. The reason I wanted to get these thoughts out, they're actually kicking me out of my office, and so I'm going to have to leave. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Really quick, I'll just throw some stuff out there. Randy and Kofi couldn't have ended this soon. Didn't like the finish, but I understand why that finish is there. Great placement with the pancake on the lady who was on her phone, Kofi.
Yes.
I thought that they're finally Like, this was the thing Seth Rollins needed. I think he's, between this, the Steve Austin endorsement, his great babyface promo on Raw, he's damn near made. So salute to him and Brock. When Brock is on like very few other people are. But yeah, no more from me, guys.
Hold up. Before you go, do a quick plug for South Congress.
Okay. Let's do this really fast. South Congress podcast, South Congress with a K, comes out every Monday. This last week, I took a much-needed trip home to San Antonio to kind of link up with the boys and some strange women. And, we talked about
strange women, all right.
Yeah, the strangest. We talked about what did we talk about? The Jeff Epstein thing and some great investigative journalism from the Miami Herald. We talked about the ridiculousness of that top 50 porn stars list. So it was great. That's every Monday. Every Wednesday I do on the same feed the Goose Down, where I review each and every one of the books in the classic R.L. Stine Goosebumps series. We'll be doing book 13 this week. Every Thursday we do I Just Want to Tell Stories, a show I produce for my buddy Joe Anderson Jr. of the Mahogany Project, where he sat down and did 10 interviews with different queer creators of color here in the Austin area. Episode 3 is coming out this week, and then Friday you'll get the video treatment for that. If I'm not back on the show between now and then, if you're in the Austin area, on September the 13th, for the first time, I got invited back to my alma mater to speak. I'll be with the University of Texas Black Student Alliance talking about the creative process of old people, I guess. So, yeah, that's all the stuff that I do.
Thank you so much, Cam. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Ladies, nice to meet you. Guys, always
nice
a
to meet
pleasure.
you too, Cam.
Yeah, Rich, I'm sure we're going to talk a million times between now and tomorrow or whenever. But, yeah, the police are at my door in a good way. So I'll catch you guys later, all right?
All right, man. Thanks, Cam.
I'll take care.
Have a good night.
Good.
All right, so we'll finish up here. We just have a few more matches to go through. Sharon and Sheila, what did you guys think about Trish and Charlotte? And how did you guys think Trish did at her age coming back, not wrestling that often?
Trish, she held her own in that match. I mean, she looked amazing. And even though she lost, she looked like a star.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no shame in her losing. I mean, it would be something different if she looked terrible lost and it was like a squash match, but it wasn't. Because at certain points, it looked like she could have won. When she did her figure eight, at one point it looked like maybe Charlotte was going to maybe tap, but she didn't. And then it really came down to who had the better figure eight. And Charlotte's figure eight was just better. She looked like she was almost standing up when she did hers. So I mean, it was just better. But she still came out looking at on top, Trish, and the Toronto fans loved her.
Yes, and I also think. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Oh,
Sheila.
I was gonna say I had a few thoughts about it, so I'm just gonna start with the fluffy stuff first. One, I thought Charlotte's entrance was badass. 2, I thought she looked like a beautiful peacock. And 3, I really want her robe. And I'm going to figure out some kind of way to get a robe like that made. I may have to pay with unicorn tears, but I'm going to figure out some kind of way. But no talk, my honest impression was it was a great story because it was an underdog story. And we're from Philadelphia, from the Philadelphia area. So home of Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
And Rocky is a movie about an underdog that while he doesn't win, he performed with heart. And it's the same thing with Trish Stratus. She didn't win, but she fought with heart. And she wasn't just going to let Charlotte just beat her. It was like, you're going to have to take this from me. If you want to win this, you're going to have to take it from me. I'm not just going to give it to you.
Right. I agree. And also I think the visual aspect of Charlotte just being so much bigger than her physically added to that story. Because Trish just looked like an underdog, like in any sense of the word, against Charlotte. And I thought she absolutely held her own. Devin, what did you think?
I love the match. And again, when Charlotte comes out, it's always time to stop and pause and just like, yo, that's Ric Flair's daughter, and she's still got that swag. It's everything. That entrance that walk to the ring is just everything to me. And then her athleticism is second to no one as far as a classic wrestler athleticism. Trish was just looking good, and those days looked real good, and I appreciate her bringing the puppies out. You know, I mean, the ladies know.
Jesus.
I mean, they were there for everybody.
They
They're
were
not just for
there.
me.
Yeah, on Twitter, people were like, "Did she get her implants put back in?"
Yo,
I
because it
saw
looked
that
like it, didn't it?
8,000 times on my Twitter feed. So maybe she did. Who cares? She looked. I mean, she,
Okay,
Because
it was a
we're
good
push
match.
up bra, we don't know.
yeah, we don't
Or
know.
plunge.
Rich, what were your thoughts on this match?
Oh, I thought it was a great match for what we had to work with, which was a veteran who hadn't wrestled a competitive match in 13 years, who still kept up with. That's the thing. She hasn't wrestled a match in 13 years. I could not imagine doing something professionally and then not doing it for almost a decade and a half, and then coming back. Hey, bro, we're gonna put you in this high profile spot. Good luck.
And she
did it. Like, my wife loved it because my wife, when she got into wrestling, she found the women easiest to get into because there were so few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she saw Trish and I explained Trish's story, she was like, well, I love the fact that she's in good shape and she doesn't feel like she has to kill herself to get into an outfit. So she found an outfit that worked because I had shown her some of her older outfits where, like, before, like, the little things on the sides would have been like nude, but instead she colored them in. And I was like, that's something I never even would have thought about. Just me, looking at an outfit, I was like, it's a nice outfit. And then seeing her in the wrestling ring, she was like, wait, how old is she? I was like, she's 42, 43. And she's keeping up with Charlotte, who Melissa knows already. And it's like, that's wild. I was like, yeah, I don't know how she's doing it either, but God bless her. Because, again, if this was a guy, I think that's the unfairness of, like, the women wrestling in 2019. If this was a guy, you would have heard far more. So you still got it. She would have gotten far more props. Instead, it was just, oh, she still looked pretty. I was like, well, that's not.
But also, if she was a guy, she would not have the burden to try to still look like Trish.
Yeah.
So, like, guys who come back in their mid-40s can just be, I used to be the star, but now I'm 40-something, but I can still do my moves. I don't have to look like I did at 22. Whereas, like, there's, like, not that Trish maybe felt this personally, but there's this feeling from the outside that, like, if Trish would have came in looking like, and I don't say this disparaging, but it's like an average 43-year-old woman, people would have been like, what is she doing in the ring? Why is she coming out here doing this? Blah, 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 as opposed to how she did look and how she did perform. But I thought she did great. All right, we got two more matches. WWE Championship match, Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton ends in a double count out. Cam brought this up of how it was a disappointing finish. Rich, I'll let you start off. What do you think about the finish, and do you think the finish justifies where they might be going in the future?
Okay, can we pause for the call? Randy Orton fucking RKO Kofi twice, fucking Xavier and Big E. So, like, and then he got, Randy Orton got RKO by his wife, which was fucking amazing on Instagram. That was great.
They're going off with SmackDown with him whispering stupid again over the corpse of the New Day, the entire stable. So the Emmett Till Memorial match apparently for Randy Orton is back on.
Racism, at least racism didn't win in SummerSlam. It didn't win, but it didn't lose either.
It didn't lose either. There are good people on both sides. That's what won.
Sharon, what'd you think?
I thought the match was good until the double count out.
Yeah. I'm like, come on. So I can understand why a lot of people are like, oh, this is bullshit. I thought the same thing. Like, this is bullshit. Because I think a lot of people wanted Kofi to pin Randy Orton clean in the middle of the ring versus what happened.
I agree.
I mean, this is some shit that probably should happen on SmackDown, not SummerSlam.
Yes, I agree. And they built it.
But I did like the candlestick.
At the end when he just lost it. Yeah, he was like,
keep hitting him.
This white man looking at my family, I'm about to go off on it. That was very good. Also, the video package was fantastic. Like, I thought the video package is one of the best ones they've done in a long time. And it seemed like they were building up for Kofi to have this, like, culminated moment of, 10 years later, finally getting over on Randy. And to do that was a little disappointing. And it's not going to hit the same if he just beats him at Clash of Champions. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sheila, what'd you think?
I agree with my sister. Like, the ending, I mean, it was good until that double tap. Like, I was thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, what, like, why? You know, and again, echoing what she said, yeah, that Kindle stick beat down was everything. Like, Kofi let his West African come out.
Yeah.
He committed to that Kindle stick beat down on Randy Orton. So.
And then I will say this on a side note: after SummerSlam, they aired the 24/7 of Kofi,
Yeah,
and that was really good. That was really, really good. You guys should go check it out. Him going back to Africa.
Ghana. Yeah.
And talking about him doing the Jamaican gimmick and why he did it and all that stuff was very interesting to see. All right, Devin. What'd you think about Bray Wyatt's new gimmick, The Fiend?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess. I mean, I only like Bray Wyatt for being weird and fucking,
Oh, this is
follow
weird.
me. I mean, it's weird, but it's just like, oh god, like this is too much for me. But that was cool. It was cool. I'm not gonna watch because I haven't watched Raw in several weeks and not gonna watch it for him either. But yeah, good for him. I mean, I'm always here to see the Demon King. So I'm down with that.
Sharon, what'd you think about The Fiend?
I like the entrance of it because it was creepy. It was like the lights were out, and all you saw was the flashing lights from everyone's phones, and it just disappears. It's like, oh well, I like that. But
What'd you think about
I'm
the
not really sure.
Bray Wyatt lantern with his old face
Creepy.
and dreads on it?
Because that's his old his old persona. That was creepy. I was like, at first I wasn't sure what that was.
By the way, that's new father Bray Wyatt. By the way, him and JoJo had a baby recently, and
Yeah.
so that's new daddy Bray Wyatt being evil as ever. But I gotta say, Bray's in fantastic shape. It's the best shape I've seen him in.
He looked good. He
looked really good. And that mask is creepy as hell. It is so creepy. It is so creepy. Rich, how do you think this first major appearance of him paid off all the Firefly Funhouses?
Oh, I think it did. I think we can look at the match, and then you can look at the fact they made overnight limited edition. I think it was like 100 of them. A Bray 500. Thank you. 500 Fiend kits, which came with a T-shirt, the Firefly Funhouse stickers. It's sold out. People were selling them for like hundreds more. Yeah.
Really?
And
Oh, wow.
I'm pissed that I didn't know it was like, if I had known, like, I definitely would have bought one.
Me too.
Because I knew they had something when my 7-year-old was watching with us. And he's like, oh, I'm out. And he just left the room.
See, yeah, like.
Because that mask, like, I was like, I guess we're not getting that mask for Halloween, huh, Trey? He's like, nope.
Trey wanted no parts of the Fiend.
He wanted no smoke. I didn't want any smoke with the Fiend. Like, when that dude, like, the match was good, the entrance was good. That face is something out of, like, Dark Souls.
Oh, my gosh.
Or, what was that space horror game they made on the PS? Dead Souls. Like, where you're just, like, nightmare fuel for 3 hours and you just have to take a break and kind of get yourself
You know what
right.
it looks like, Rich? It looks like, you remember in the Scott Snyder Batman run when the Joker got his face ripped like off,
and he had to cut it off. Yes.
He had to cut his face off, and then he like stitched it back on like over top of his skin. It looks like that. Like it just looks so creepy. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, his outro was even scarier, where the lights go out and then it just starts flickering, and he just turns and gives you the the Instagram model button side pose.
He's a really creative dude. Like I gotta give him that.
Yes.
Like he is a really, really creative dude. And I hope that they keep his matches like I was fantasy booking, but I was like after what happened to Brock Lesnar, I was like I kinda want to see a different Brock Lesnar. And so I was thinking like the Fiend just dominates everyone and then he's the one who beats Kofi for the belt and then he's the champ for a while and then Brock Lesnar comes back as like the guy to like you remember how like well all of us probably are too young but like if you read like or watch videos and hear people talk how they used to book Andre the Giant back in the day where like Andre would be the guy who comes in when the babyface needs help. And so, like, you know, like if you're Ted DiBiase in Mid-South and you're fighting, and you start getting jumped by everybody, you go and call Andre the Giant. And then Andre the Giant comes in for the big tag match to save the day, to, like, help you, like, take down the big bad villain, whoever it is. Like, I thought that would be cool, but, like, I really want to see them go somewhere with him. Sheila, what did you think about The Fiend?
Where to start? I mean, the intro and outro were badass. Yeah, he's a scary dude. Scary dude. Finn look good.
I mean, that's a given.
But I mean, as far as like the match itself, yeah, I was kind of like, what am I watching? I didn't get it.
Yeah, Finn Balor
One of his new moves is he breaks the dude's neck. Like, I was like, this isn't okay.
Yeah, like I know this can't be for real. Like, he's still alive. Didn't actually break his neck, but I was like, why somebody die? Why TV?
Also, have you guys noticed, ladies, have you noticed that they're bringing back the Attitude Era finishes to new characters? Like, this is the third one. Like, the Mandible Claw's back, the Stunner's back, Montez Ford's doing the People's Elbow. Like, that's...
But they're trying to bring back the Attitude Era, so you're not going to ever bring back the Attitude Era ratings.
Ratings? No, hell no. Never.
Well, yeah, I don't even think that's possible. I don't even know how good of a show WWE would have to be to bring back those ratings. Like, I don't even know if there's a level where that's possible.
It's just impossible because there's too many good things on TV now.
But
it's
yeah,
impossible.
I do like the Mandible Claw is a creepy ass finish. So just like sticking your fingers in someone's mouth and just like that's just really creepy.
They're trying to pull their bottom teeth out of their jaw.
Yeah.
So it has to fucking hurt.
That's really creepy. And then the main event, the last match of the night, Universal Championship, Seth Rollins defeats Brock Lesnar. Rich, what did you think about this match?
I liked it a lot. I thought I put on Twitter, you need to not have smoke with Brock Lesnar. Like, for all the people was like, Brock sucks and stuff. Like, I just saw this man spin another 230-plus pound man by rib tape. Like, not by his body. Like, I've never seen that before. Like, that's a level of strength that I did not think was possible. So I was like, you, sir, can have next all you want. You can take my quarter. You can take everybody else's quarter. No smoke here. None. And which makes to me even more amazing when a guy like Matt Riddle, people forget he was in UFC as well. And he's like, I want to retire Brock Lesnar. And I'm like, oh, you have big dreams. And you, sir? So that's what I thought about this. I thought Seth did great, but it was more looking at Brock as like, this is why this man, like I joked when we were talking, Brandon, when he first won Money in the Bank, it's like giving a T-Rex nuke on his back just because let's see what happens. Like, Brock Lesnar should not exist the way he does. Like, he shouldn't be this big, this fast, and you put him in the ring with anyone else and it should be unfair, but somehow he can make a match look like there's someone that's alive and got a chance. And Seth Rollins, God bless him, he took the hardest shoulder post or back post. Like, that man got thrown back first into that post.
How about when he picked him up by the tape?
Yeah, it spun him like
a kid.
That's what I do with my son. Like, well, hold on.
That was incredible. And people forget, Brock Lesnar's like 43, 44 years old. Like, he's not.
God damn, he's old now. That's
he's
crazy,
not like 35, 30 years old. Like, this man is a freak of nature. Like, and when, like Cam said, when Brock Lesnar is motivated and on, you see why he's paid
he's
the
the
way
guy.
he's paid.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't do it as often as everyone else and things like that, but that dude has a different aura to him than anybody else on that roster. So Sheila, what'd you think?
Honestly, I actually tapped out, so I told Sharon, I was like, that's all on you, sis, but I heard it when she was like, oh my gosh, like he pulled him up by his bandage, just holding his ribs together. I was like, what?
That was incredible.
That was awesome. I loved it.
So, yeah, Sharon, what did you think about this match?
I actually enjoyed the match because, again, it's a David and Goliath kind of match.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you seen Seth Rollins, and he's basically kind of fucked up because his ribs are messed up from that beatdown he got on Raw from Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock Lesnar apparently is in the best shape of his life. And to see Brock Lesnar at times like beat down Seth Rollins, but then also get shocked when Seth Rollins keeps coming back at him. Like just a couple times he was really shocked when Seth Rollins kept coming back. I was like, this motherfucker can't stay down? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like now. And there's also a couple of times when he was trying to German suplex him, and Seth Rollins out of it. And I was like, damn, I'm impressed with that. So, I felt like them just looked amazing.
Yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah.
And Seth
looked great doing it.
Seth always looks great doing it. He's in incredible shape too. Like,
yes,
it's amazing how these dudes stay and women stay in this type of shape on the road as much as they are. Like, I just can't I can't fathom how they do it sometimes. But I really enjoyed this match. I was really happy because there's a lot of hate out there for Brock Lesnar. You know, with the people who they get worked and they go, he's taking this spot or he's not doing this. I'm like, when you watch something like this, how do you not see that this dude is not like everyone else in the roster? Like, he's just not. Like, if you had Brock Lesnar coming out there every week on Raw wrestling, it wouldn't even look right. Like, it just wouldn't even fit in the narrative structure of the television show to me. And I know Travis on the East Coast Cast talks about how Brock used to do real wrestling matches, and I would love to see him. Like, I think I would love to see him pull that out once. Come back and do like 2003 Brock Lesnar, 2002 Brock Lesnar doing all his moves and like with the trunks. Like, that would be interesting to see. But this version that we saw on Sunday was really good. Devin, what'd you think?
I mean, he's a freak of fucking nature. But just having Seth Rollins being able to take that punishment and be Seth Rollins still after, having his ribs damaged is just a testament to how good of a worker Seth is. Because even like when Brock faced AJ, I thought AJ was going to die. Like, there's no way, but Seth looked like he was still holding on. AJ was visibly red, visibly looked like he was just washed. And for Seth to go that far and still win the match, after, getting pulled up by the tape, that's crazy. That's just fucking crazy.
CrossFit Jesus.
Yeah.
I love Seth Rollins.
Yeah, it was the test.
I started loving Seth Rollins when he was Tyler Black, and then I really started loving Seth Rollins when, I don't know what, Rich, you probably remember this. Was it the Baltimore protests or whatever when Seth Rollins started like putting up the Black Lives Matter stuff on Twitter? I can't remember. Yep. It was like a few years ago.
Yeah,
I think
because it was the same time. It was right at the start. It was right when we had the shoot in Missouri, and then Randy, being Randy, was like, well, we don't know what's going on. The officer probably was justified, MAGA. And Seth was like, nah, man, we got too much crap going on in this country for me to be quiet. I don't care if I'm just a wrestler. I'm going to say my piece. And I was like, okay. And around that time, he was cool with the New Day. And it was around SummerSlam where he was like, we need to be a Survivor Series team because they all wore white. That was when he broke John Cena's nose.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
And he won the U.S. and World, I think it was World, maybe it was WWE title at the same time. And people were saying, thank you, Rollins and all that. And he really just showed out.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Rollins, especially since then. So, yeah, I'm glad to see him doing really, really well. I don't want to.
And I love the ripcord.
Yeah. I don't want to. Before we get out, I don't want to go. We're not going over Raw, but I just want to get everyone's thoughts. Sharon, what'd you think about Sasha Banks' return?
I thought that was a good. I know people were anticipating that she was going to come back at SummerSlam because there were reports that she was going to show up at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it didn't happen. But her showing up at Raw and beating down Natalya and Becky Lynch, especially with those chair shots of Becky Lynch.
Oh, did you see the one where she hit her in the head? That was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. I mean, apparently Becky Lynch is fine.
Yeah, apparently she's
She's
fine.
like a champ.
Also,
But yeah, I thought that was good.
every black person, especially every black woman on Twitter, was like, "What the fuck's up with her wig?" And every white person that was watching wrestling said nothing about her hair, and I was like, "Two Americas," because everyone, I saw that, I was like, "Why does she have a wig on?" Like a clear wig, not like a wig, like she's wearing a wig, but like a clear wig that she's about to pull off. I'm like, "What's going on here?" Because her hair looked like horrible, and then she pulled her wig off, and I was like, "Okay, good."
Yes,
Like,
she has blue hair now. Yeah, don't you know black women notice everything?
Yes, yes.
True.
Sheila, what'd you think about her return, and were you excited?
About time.
Mm-hmm.
About time. I follow her on Twitter, so I was kind of keeping track of goings on. I didn't know if she was going to come back or not, or how long she was going to stay out. So yes, it's about time she's back.
And I hope she beats Becky.
Oh yeah, sure.
And Rich, what'd you think about her return and how they handled it?
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought she had the attitude she had back when she was in NXT, and I think the time she spent in Japan and the time she spent figuring out what she wanted to do in that next step is going to be fun, especially what we see in the ring. I mentioned on Twitter, before she even jacked up Becky, I was like, I can't wait for the first interaction between her and Becky, and then if I waited 5 minutes, I would have seen it. But this is the stuff Becky actually was asking for, because post Ronda, she really hasn't had anyone that could step up and give her that juice, and now she's got it. She asked for the smoke, as Montez said. She wanted the smoke, now she got the smoke.
All right. Thank you, Cam. He's not on, but thanks, Cam, for being on here. Sheila and Sharon, thank you. You ladies were so great. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Before we get out, tell everyone about your podcast.
Okay, so our podcast is Ladies Talk Wrestling. We discuss wrestling through the lenses of race, gender, and class. We currently have a bi-weekly mini podcast called The Double Take. So we kind of talk about new stuff going on, and then in the fall we'll debut the longer versions of the podcast.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely go subscribe to that. Is it on iTunes and everywhere? Because I listened on iTunes.
We're on Spotify and Anchor.com.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so make sure you guys go subscribe to that and support that podcast. I'm super excited to continue listening. Rich, why don't you give a plug for the PW Torch VIP and talk about the deep dive?
Sure. So the Torch, if you go to pwtorch.com/govip, you can get all the information. Bottom line, it's $10 a month, 30 years of experience. Wade Keller's our editor-publisher. Bruce Mitchell's our senior columnist. He's one of the best human beings on the planet. That's why we call him Unc. And for me, I host a weekly show on Saturdays, 6 p.m., The Deep Dive. I dive into whatever subjects I want for an hour, have callers. Sometimes I'll do interviews. I've been able to chat with, Selena De La Vega from MLW, Conan MLW, Darius Lockhart, a black independent wrestler that's working primarily Mid-Atlantic in London, England, and Germany now. And also had some of my friends on, had Brandon, Devin, Cam, everyone basically that you've heard, and hopefully the ladies in time, has been on, and nothing's off the limits. We love talking about anything. It's just me nerding out with people I like for an hour. So you can find more information about that on pwtorch.com. And then on Wednesdays, I also team up with Cam and Travis for the East Coast Cast, which is a life, wrestling, and the universe thing where we kind of talk about.
It's my favorite wrestling show. Like, it got me into wrestling podcasts. I've been listening almost since the beginning, like maybe a year in is when I started. And, it's just the best. It's the best every week. Like, you get a whole bunch of wrestling stuff, and then you get comic book stuff with Rich and Trav afterwards. And then sometimes you'll get politics and Rich and Trav going back and forth with each other. And then you'll get Trav going on some conspiracy theory every now and then or something crazy. Cam talking about stuff in his life. It's absolutely fantastic. In my opinion, it's the best wrestling podcast out there. I love it. And everyone should go and listen to it. I've been listening to it for years and years, and it's the best. Also, Bruce is awesome. I said this on Twitter the other day. I was like, I was when Bruce Mitchell followed me on Twitter, I thought it was so cool, and I was like super excited, like a little school kid. And I was like, and I thought about, it, I was like, I'm super excited, like the 56-year-old, 56-year-old white man that's followed me on Twitter. It's very interesting, but
That's good.
it was super cool though, because Bruce is the best, man, and he's super knowledgeable. Like there's like him and Dave Meltzer, like really, in American coverage of pro wrestling. I don't think there's anyone who knows more and been around more wrestling than those two, and like it's like sitting at the learning tree, just listening to him talk. Him and Rich have done shows together. Rich co-hosted the Bruce Mitchell audio show a few months back. It was awesome. So yeah, definitely if you get a chance, like I've been subscribed for years. It's absolutely worth the money. And make sure you follow Rich on Twitter, Rich_Fann. And Sheila and Sharon, are you ladies on Twitter?
We are actually at Ladies Talk Rest 1. So it's Ladies Talk Rest, which is WRES and the number 1.
Okay, so yeah, make sure you go follow the show on Twitter, Ladies Talk Rest 1. Devin, I will talk to you later this week with Mike when we do our weekly show. Rich, I know you'll be back on soon.
Anime.
Sharon and Sheila, I would love to have you two on for one of our normal shows and some more wrestling stuff in the future if you ladies would love to come back on.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that sounds great. We will be back later this week. Thank you all for listening. We have some movie reviews coming out this week. I guess we got to do The Good Boys, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes, sir.
We're a little bit behind on, so we're going to catch up on the reviews. You can catch our Hobbs and Shaw review. You can catch our The Boys review from Amazon. And I didn't tell anyone, but I wasn't going to tell anybody on the show, but Amazon actually reached out to me, and they're going to send me, and Rich is going to be a little jealous of this, I know. They're going to send me a screener of The Expanse to review on the show.
Oh, God. I'm flying to San Diego. I'm saying.
So when I get that, we're going to watch that and review that because that's literally my favorite show. So hopefully that should be coming sometime. I think, what does this season come out in December, right? I think it's December it starts. I think they said December.
I think so.
So I probably will get it sometime in October or November. So look out for that. That was super exciting and big for the show. Mike is going to be covering Keystone Comic-Con for the show in September and New York Comic-Con in October. And I will be covering Los Angeles Comic-Con in October. So just be on the lookout for all those things. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Like I said, go subscribe to the PW Torch and the Deep Dive and the Ladies Talk Wrestling Podcast and the South Congress Podcast. I've been a lot of talking at the end, but thanks for listening and talk to you later.